Okay.
This stuff sounds very useful.
Yes. So what I did was I'm working on the roles, and I'm trying to like set roles to specific routes and allow only people to use only certain routes. So what I did was in the customer controller, I had to create. So in the post mapping, I just create. I also haven't got the self working yet, but so the other ones are still kind of open. You can see I didn't add any other routes in here. These are all seem kind of normal, like the gets. And then the store, I only added in the get all the locations of the store, but I still have the post mappings and stuff still like this. But now in the web, so I set these up like this. So now in the web configuration, here's where it all comes out. So in the AMP matches, you can put commas in the authorized request. You can build these out. You can put as many as you want.
That's
So
good.
right now I have the all, and these are all permit all. Everybody can run that. Everybody can do those.
Yep.
These right here, I got to add the self update and self delete, but I can create. So the customer can only create a customer, can look at all the available vehicles because I add that as a get route, as a view, and rentals. They can create a rental, but they can't do anything else in that route. There's nothing else they can do other than those. The employee and the customer can look at the store locations, and that's all they can do. Employee admin can do everything inside all these routes. The star means that doesn't make a difference if I override it up here. They still consider they're all routes because they're all starred. So
Yeah.
employee and admin can just go add it at all the vehicle, all the routes for all these. And then the admin can only be doing altering the store, can be able to create a store, delete a store, or do whatever they want to the store.
It's an interesting way of approaching it, and I actually do like that you can do that, because what's beneficial about that, I wonder, oh no, that's not an array of strings, it's just a list, it's just multiple strings. If you could do an array of strings, and you could actually just create like an array somewhere and just put variable there. Now we could put maybe a static variable at the top. It would be great if you could do an array of URLs, but probably not. Anyway.
That's a good idea, though.
Yeah.
That's something that could be tested. I don't know if you could do that. I mean,
Yeah.
as long as it's accepting strings.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically it. That's how I pretty much set up all the roles, and I'm pretty good with this now. I don't think I'm gonna mess with it any further. Like I said, I just want to do the update and delete, but I think this is pretty good for the application itself.
I wonder if Java has something called it as a spread operator. So again, so remember correctly, the spread operator in Java script is what we've been using to pull apart objects and pull apart arrays, so that the contents of an array are pulled apart out of an array as individual elements separated by commas. It's why we're able to recreate an object using another object by doing the 3 dots and then the object name inside another object. It's a way we can just pull out all the elements. And when you do the spread operator to an array, you take the elements of the array and you just pull them out of the array as separate and as strings separated by commas. So if Java has some sort of spread operator, that would be useful.
That's some of the examples I've seen. Some people just like piled like all their routes, and not only that, they just did them all along like this. I made it nice and neat by just going down the list, but they just like stacked them all in there and said this goes to customer or this goes to user or whatever. It was like it looked like a mess, but this is basically how you could apply roles to parts in the controller. You just have to specify the route that you want to go. So that's it. I don't know if you have any questions or any other things. I know it works, but
no, that makes good sense to me. The only thing I guess left would just be, I guess something I think of, like I said, is if you wanted to keep 2 routes with different verbs, the same URL, but with the 2 different verbs, how could you do that? But that I feel like you're just kind of being picky in that case. In other words, just get over it and just create and have it not, instead of just doing the get and post having the same URL, make them separate. It's something you could look into if you wanted to, but it's not something you need in all honesty. So that'd be the only thing, because we know that we usually do the we do get and post usually as the same URL. It's just the root URL of the controller. Here you've changed that, where the get is just the get, and then you have create, which is the post. So that's
And
where
like
the change
vehicles,
is.
yeah, like vehicles.
Yeah, you have available as your get. So you don't have
Yeah.
any, like, none of your mappings are using, none of your different verb mappings are using the same URL. All the verbs are different. Except for put and get ID, but those two are identical in their requirements. So whoever can use those can use both.
Yeah.
Apparently, and that would be the idea there. The thing is here is if we would want to have the get be available to one route, one user, but have the put be available to a different user, even though they're the same URL. Could you do that? Again, it's probably possible. Just don't know how it is. And again, that's where I feel like you're starting to split hairs. If you need that sort of granularity in your system, you probably need to do something a little more fancy then. So this I like. This is a very, it makes sense. And I like how it keeps them fairly organized. Instead of making multiple authorized requests and matchers with the identical has auth authority or any authority there, you can just add a bunch to the same and matcher there. And that's really great that you can do that. So good find on that.
But like a user, I mean, well, I'm saying like I have an employee and a customer. So the only difference between a customer is just a customer, but an employee can technically be a customer too.
Yeah.
But this is why I put this in here in the middle, because I was gonna put it up in here and then put it down here, and I'm like, why don't we just combine one line here, and then if I have more routes that I want the customer and employee to interact, that they can both interact, I can just add it into this section and just keep building that out.
Yep. And what I like here is that every kind of grouping, the has any authority grouping, can be its own line, and that way you can just look, and how you lined it up is actually really nice, because then I can just look up and down here to find the grouping I want, and then add my item to the one I want. So it's easy to kind of read what I'm looking for, and I can very quickly see I don't have that grouping yet. Oh, I want something that's only available to admins and customers. Not that I can think of any scenario that you would want an admin and employee, a customer to have, but not an employee. But if it did, you can realize, oh, I don't have that grouping yet. Let me add that one.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
Great find. I'll pause the recording. There we go. Share screen. Back to our project. What I also want to do is pull up our developer quick. And we can't do this map by, so that's what I double checked on. So I wasn't sure if this was going to work or not. What we need to do is still do the same at many with the join table and the join columns. The trick here, though, is we're going to give it. Why do I not see you guys? Show the video panel, please. Thank you. There you are. The pretty faces. We can use that. We use the same many-to-many instruction we've done before. We just need to tell it the correct table name that already exists, so that it doesn't try to create a new one. It'll just use an existing one. And so if we go to our terminal, not that button. I already have it open and looking, so I can see it. We have the, where is it? All right, it's not going to create it yet. But if we use this as a reference, we can see developer, avatar, approve, geek out. We know that it seems to match our entity name with a small initial character. So it is a singular small character table. And so if we look at this, what can we assume our relationship table is going to be called?
Relationship.
Thank you, with a small r. Yeah, not a difficult question. So we're going to bring this in. I don't want to do that. Just do one to many. We're actually going to bring in two versions of this, because unfortunately our system is not the most intuitive system, because it's self-referential, and because our friends are people that we are the originator and also the recipient. So be aware of that. So in here, I'm going to do many to many. And here, let's look up here for the reference. Many. We do, I'll bag that. We do that. And then we do at join table. And then we do a capital J. The name is going to be, as we said before, it's the name that we were given, relationship. The table that already exists. The join columns in at join column name, and that's going to be, again, we want to look back to what we created, the same names we created before. So we pull up our relationship model entity. We know the two column names we created was originator ID and recipient ID. So this is going to be the first version where we're going to create the originator is the join column. Reference column name, ID. That's correct. Yes. Yes. Good. Too many things. There you go. There's a comma there first before we do this. Then inverse join column, same thing. Column. Name is it. Yep. ID. Reference column is again ID. Do public set on the private, sorry. Private set developers relationships. The problem is this is not enough. This is only going to give us the relationships where the person is the originator. We also need to make sure we pull all the relationships with this developer is the recipient as well, right? And that's what we need to get here. And so we need to create what's called an inverse relationship as well, as we need that other list. And what we can do is do a get friendships or get friendships as a list of the two of these where only where the type is a friend. And so we can do that. And again, we're going to do that later on. We're not going to do that as part of the model, but we are going to bring that in as a thing we can do. Do an at many to many. Column, and it's pretty much identical to before, but just instead, this name is going to be the recipient ID. Column name, then ID again. Inverse join columns is the at column and equals originator ID. Reference column name ID. Here's the thing. I don't want to include these two items when I'm pulling the profile by default. When I want the actual friend list, I'm going to pull it from an endpoint so that the endpoint can grab these two items and combine them correctly. I can pull the correct data that I want. I only want the friends out of these. And then I want to make sure I merge the two of them, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do it at. Let's not ignore properties, a property. Oh, I didn't include it. Ignore property. There we go. Just an ignore. Non-property, sorry.
Oh, just the just ignore.
Ignore. We just want to ignore this field altogether. This field is not going to be provided, but by providing this here in the developer repository, I can now create searches based on this. So that's why we want this. I want to be able to search my relationships for the type of friend. I want to be able to search relationships for type of block. Both relationship and inverse relationship. So this is why I want to add these here so that I can pull from this in the repository. All right. That's the purpose for these two items. Because they are collections, where do we not need to add these items?
The constructor.
Good. We don't need them in the constructor. We do want our setter and getter for it. Down the bottom, we do All right, I keep forgetting the shortcut for that, but I'll remember it later. Getter and setter. I actually don't use them for sets a lot. I don't know the approvals either, but it's fine.
Shortcut on Windows for that window is Alt Insert.
Yeah, right. I think we figured that wasn't Mac's version of it, though. I don't know why I still have that there. I'm going to get rid of this comment. You guys don't need to. I just want to clean up my object. Good. So again, we have these now exist. They're not going to be pulled down when we pull down the profile, the developer's profile. But because these now exist, the repository can now access this data. It now knows this relationship exists. It can access it. Before we do anything, though, let's rerun our app and make sure that it's okay with this annotation. I believe it should, based on my testing, but we'll see if it doesn't like me. It wants to make me a liar.
So far, so good.
It did not make me a liar. Good. I was like, please don't make me look bad. So when you do these fun things, it works once in the test. They use a different system than Geeky likes. But then I tested here. It's like, please work.
Exclamation mark. I go
What's that?
Freezing warehouse.
Is that Taylor or who is that? About freezing? What?
I thought my mic was off, and I'm texting my wife. Sorry.
We're just on a roll today.
Hey, Nick, you're gonna run that class about turning off your mic?
I've noticed that this
think
does
some
not
people should.
always work.
Today's a good day for that, apparently.
I think Zoom also, if you do a hardware mute on your mic, it'll swap it to any other available mic on the machine.
Yeah,
So if you're running on a laptop, it'll automatically switch it to the laptop mic.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, that's why you just mute. Always mute in Zoom.
So
No questions
you
asked.
hear me now?
Don't trust hardware mute. Yes, I
Can
can.
you?
I can hear
Oh
you. Yes.
Gosh.
Yeah, so always hardware, not always software mute. Just use the Zoom mute. It's so much easier.
I can't trust anyone.
Nope. This has been a day.
It's still
All right.
going.
Yep.
not over yet.
Let it keep going. I'm fine with it. It's a fun day, at least.
Glad you're having a good day.
I'm enjoying myself. I don't know why I did that. Anyway. Good. So we got that. We have that. Let's go back to our relationships controller. So we have a post mapping of add or ID. Currently, this is just going to create a pending relationship between the logged in user and the RID. There is a potential problem for this. What is that potential problem? We'll have a scenario. You guys can see the problem as I give you guys the scenario. So Travis is joining the site, Nick joined the site, and they're joining at the same time. They find each other like, oh, hey, I know. Travis like, hey, I know Nick. And Nick's like, oh, hey, I know Travis. So they pull up the profile. They see the button. They hit the button. All of a sudden, Nick's wife asks him a question. So he turns and starts talking to her. Travis hits the button. And then Nick, Nick looks back. And Travis hit the button. So Travis created this pending request. Nick goes back and looks at the screen. Is his screen going to update that button automatically? Or is he going to still see a add friend button?
I don't think we know that.
I feel like
You
still
don't,
gonna
right?
see the button.
So unless you set up some sort of system where the back end can tell the front end, hey, something has changed, it can't. So remember, so this is actually a really good, all I want to mention about this is, again, just a better understanding of how the internet works, which is really key for development. And so that's why I want to lead to this. So new share quick, or quick. Share, we'll do a quick one on this. This one should be a small one compared to yesterday, so. But still tablet. I'm not trusting my art skills with the mouse. Gabe can keep that title. So We have the server that is serving the website. So this is what's serving the website. This serves the website. And we also have the API as well. We can say that's fine. So here's the API as well. And we have the World Wide Web. And then we have the browser for the user. So how React works, just to make sure everybody clears on this one. When someone goes to your website, the browser pings the World Wide Web, the URL you give it gets evaluated and becomes an IP address of where your host is. So it then says, yep, here it is, here's the request, say, hey, I need the website. The system responds back with the React web, with the React code. The React code goes down and your browser gets it, and then everything disconnects. You're no longer connected to that server though. You now have the browser stored locally, or the app, the website is now stored locally and is running on your system. That's the power of React. In older systems, yes, you would have to keep making pulls to the website's server for new pages. As you go to new pages, you would just pull pages from the server, but not with anymore with React. How we get new data now is we make requests to the API. And so how we make requests to the API, so we'll say again, Travis goes on, he hits the add friend button for Nick. That request goes out to the browser. The browser says, so the World Wide Web first. The World Wide Web says, oh, you want the API for Geeky Likes. That URL, that's IP address here. That's where the server is in the World Wide Web. That's the physical location of where the server is. And so then it sends that request to the API server. The server does something called HTTP request, goes through something called a handshake. You come in and say, hey, I'm here and I want something. Before you can tell it what you want, the server needs to create and establish the handshake and say, I hear you and I'm willing to accept your request. Once you're willing to accept the request, your request then passes the request data to the server, which then analyzes it, passes through whatever applications it needs to do, does the whole process, and then gives you, says, all right, here's the information you need. Here's my response. Not necessarily the information you need, but here's my response. Take that back with you. And what happens is that then these two systems let go. The handshake is broken on the way back. So on the way back, the data is returned. And once that request is on the way, you no longer have that connection. So then Travis sees, okay, cool, I hit the thing and I got the success. Nick has been on the site, but now looking at this, is there any way for the API to tell Nick's browser that, hey, this person you're looking at, they sent a friend request, so I need to update your button. You can now accept the friendship instead of adding the friend. Is there any way for the API to tell Nick's browser, we'll say that this is actually not Nick, this is Travis. This is Nick. Is there any way for the API to tell Nick that something's changed? You initially might think, oh, well, it can just send a request to Nick, but there's two problems with that. One, Nick's computer, if secured, is not accepting incoming requests, right? He doesn't have a server running to accept incoming requests. What's the other reason why the API can't send something to Nick's computer?
Thinking in terms of OpenShift, something about them not being in the same pod, something around the connectivity.
Not a bad guess, actually, but yeah, it's the reason why the reason that would help would be, we'll explain it better, but there's a better way to explain it. But yeah, you're on the right realm. By being in the same pod. Go ahead.
My browser hasn't initiated a kind of handshake with the API.
Not quite. If you were listening, let's say you were listening for requests, you could do a handshake then. You can't do a handshake because you're not listening for requests, but yes, some of you have, you currently have a server running on your computer if you ran the IntelliJ program that is accepting incoming requests on 8888 or 8080?
8080.
8080, yeah, that was right. So 8080, so you're accepting handshake requests on 8080 right now. So why though, what's the other problem of me from a external server trying to send a everyday user a request? So again, you're able to send the request to Facebook. Why? Why are you able to send a request to Facebook? Because you have what?
An
Everything
account.
relies on a login, don't they? Or
No, that's not required because you don't need to log into Facebook to go to facebook.com, right?
Oh, no, true.
But why are you able to visit facebook.com and get a response from them? What do you have?
We have an account.
Nope.
Web browser, internet connection. I'm missing this. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah.
Token.
Nope. Again, just going to Google. Just go to Google and type in a search. You just type in a search query. You're able to get data back, right?
Yeah.
But why are we able to navigate to Google? But yet,
Because
well, hold on. Let me think about this better. Everyone here can go to YouTube, and you do not need to have a password to get in or to view videos, right? You don't have to have an account. You can just view videos freely, right?
Correct.
Can
Yeah.
people in China do that?
No.
Why?
the firewall.
Kind of, again, they don't know the physical location of the address of the server, right? They can't get the IP address because China's blocking it. You guys can go to it because you have that IP address. It's just the URL gets translated because of DNS servers.
DNS, yeah.
You don't realize you do, but you know the IP address of the server. You know it. You use that URL to get the IP address of the server.
Mhm.
Does our website have the IP address of Nick's browser?
No.
Of Nick's
No.
computer? No, right? I can't send it because I don't know where the hell he is in the World Wide Web. He could be
Okay.
anywhere in the United States, right? He could be in China, he could be in Japan, he could be anywhere. I don't,
Could
as
be
a server,
using
I don't know
NordVPN.
this. Exactly. I don't know that. I don't know where Nick is.
Really?
I
Thanks to
can't tell him.
NordVPN. Sign up now and use code Cliff. Sorry.
Throw in a Ridge wallet.
There you go.
If you go to Easy TV, it'll tell you exactly where your IP address is and where you're living.
Technically, yes, but at the same time, on the problem with that is a dynamic IP address and it will not remain the same. In a couple days, it'll change.
It'll tell me that it tells me my Cox IP address.
Again, which will change. Cox changes it. It uses
No,
a
my
dynamic.
Cox doesn't change.
It will. Trust me. You have a dynamic IP address through Cox. It is not a static IP. You have to pay for that.
No, to be able
Trust
to change. I'm telling you because I use my computer as a PnP server and I use the same IP address for the past year. If I want to actually change my IP, I just unplug the modem and they'll give me a brand new IP.
Right, but that's the thing. It will
He pays
change.
for a
It can
dedicated-
change. You are not on a dedicated IP address. You can
but-
at some point change. It is
Right,
not
but if
static
my
or
modem
dedicated.
does not go down, that IP I keep for the next 5 years because I've been using that same IP.
That's not something you should rely on, though. Because again, a simple power outage or a server or just a system reset because of an update can change your IP address. You need to be respectful of that concept of the difference between dedicated and static. If you were to try to claim that you have a dedicated IP address or a static IP address, you would be laughed at in an interview, Jim. Understand the difference. Whether or not it stays, just because you haven't changed does not mean it's dedicated or static. It is dynamic, period.
But my
I-
point is, doesn't
Take it from
change.
someone who's literally paying for a dynamic IP, for a static IP address with Arnell for some of our side projects. We have to pay for that in order for it to work for crypto.
My point is mine doesn't change on a daily basis.
It doesn't need to, but it can. Again, that's a decision of your IP address. Just be aware of that, of your IP provider, your internet provider. I just said IP provider, of your internet provider. Your internet provider decides how often you change. So Cox may be lazy, doesn't mean all are. And at any point, they can decide to make it more constant. So again, it's something, the main point here is that your IP address is not reliable. That's all I'm trying to say. It is not reliable. At any moment, it can change. The Google IP address is very reliable. It does not change. Facebook's IP address is very reliable because they pay for a dedicated IP account. They're the dedicated IP address. The crypto stuff we're fiddling with, ours is reliable because we pay for a dedicated IP address. There's no possible chance for it to change.
Talking about
Um,
your WAN, right? Not your LAN.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. LAN doesn't change. 192.168 doesn't change. But yeah, your WAN does change. Yep. Wide area network for those not familiar. Local area versus wide area.
Well, I mean
Um,
your public IP. So like
yeah.
your local IP, like what Jim was saying, for
192.168.
his server, that one right there can be set as static, so it doesn't change. But that's not the IP address.
No,
that
he's
the
saying
internet sees.
he's trying to say the IP address he's getting from Cox on his WAN doesn't change because he hasn't turned off his modem for years. So, which can happen. Again, it depends on what your IP decides, or your internet service provider, ISP. That's what I'm looking for. What your ISP decides is the technique that they use for resetting your IP address and when do they change it and how often do they change it. they can decide, you know what, we don't want, they can have a dedicated IP address as long as they don't reset their router. As long as they don't have to reset the modem, they can keep the same IP address. But as soon as you do, you have that potential to lose that IP address. And even then, you may not. If you reconnect, all your modem does is says, hey, Cox, I need an IP address, which sounds weird as hell to say now. Great, thanks for making me say that, Jim. And it's up to them to then say, okay, here's your IP address. And they can give you the same one. Just like, yeah, when you reset your computer and you turn it back on, it asks your router for an IP address, a local one, a 192.168 IP address. And 9 times out of 10, your router is going to give you the same one, but it doesn't have to. It can give you a different one.
But I set mine permanently in my router of all which ones have, like which computers have.
Well, yeah, you're setting local area dedicated IP addresses. Yes.
Exactly.
But
Yeah,
the one provided by Cox is dynamic. You can keep it for a while if you don't ever reset, because you're never going to ask for a new one. But as soon as you reset and you ask for a new one, you might get a new one.
Yeah.
And you may not. But again, the main thing here is that even then, even though you have the dedicated, unless you tell my server what that is, I can't contact you. So all this has been moot. I still don't know that IP address unless you, Jim, tell my server that IP address. And so I have no way to update any of my customers for new data, at least through the standard HTTP communication system. We go through this sort of like anonymous, not really anonymous, semi-anonymous, or at least this game of tag type of system where we come in and we ask you for information. It's a one-sided system. The clients or the users of a system are one-sided. We come in and say, hey, I want new information. It's like, all right, here's the new information. Let me know when you want more. And then the server will just sit there with new information until we decide to ask. There is another technology that some of you might want to benefit from if you want to look into any sort of chatting systems or any sort of real-time update systems for your site. That is a tool called socket.io. So for anybody who needs real-time data information to communicate back and forth between your front end and your server, you can use something called socket.io. What socket.io does is socket.io has its own port number on the same server that your API is running on, that these same applications running. So there is a socket.io for Java that will listen for incoming requests. And so you do the same type of incoming HTTP request out to it, a socket.io request to that IP address, say, hey, I want to connect. The handshake occurs. But what's different here is that once the system responds saying, hey, I got you, I hear you, I see you, and here's my confirmation that I've received your request, we don't disconnect that handshake. We keep that connection open and make it bidirectional. So now your system is listening on that connection that we've just established. And so now if, in this case, now let's say my API has new information. Travis sent up the request. I'm like, oh, hey, this person here, they got a request. They now have a friend request. I can now say, oh, hey, here, I'm going to send this down to you. I have new data for you. Nick's browser is now like, oh, you do? What is it? I can now send it down, update his front end, and now I could update that button for him automatically. Go for it, Nick.
Is this technology similar to something like when you fetch mail from a mail client?
Similar, yeah. IMAP is similar, but not quite, because a lot of those, they do periodic checks. So those are, yeah.
Well, I guess that's fetch, but I guess I'm referring to push.
It's very similar to kind of like pushing, yeah. Again, it's in that idea that the server can now tell you, I have something for you. Instead of it sitting there waiting for you to ask it, do you have more for me? The server can initiate the response.
So how does something like that not just bog down a system if you're just constantly listening?
And that's the difference again. The fetching constantly can bog down a system. So constantly asking, hey, do you got anything? No. 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 That can bog down systems. This system, socket.io, is very minimal. It just needs something called a keep alive signal to come out every once in a while. And a keep alive system can be as small as a single byte of data, just say, I'm still here. But the server sends it down once, and then the browser just says, yep, I'm still here. It's a single byte, happens every couple of seconds. And since it's a single byte, it's fairly small and minuscule and uses very little resources in that case, because we're not doing a full HTTP request saying, hey, do you got more data for me? No, I don't. And the other thing on top of that,
you can set the time
Probably, I haven't
Sort of
gone
like
to,
a
yeah.
timeout or how often it sends a request.
Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't looked into those things. I haven't built anything big enough to worry about that, but I'm confident there is some complex things. Socket has been around for a while now.
Does it send out like a ping just to?
I'll keep a live signal, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know that I'm pretty confident Socket.io has a keep alive signal that it does. Most systems do. I will say that in the modern time, the technology for the keep alive system could be more modern and more better, and could be better and less intuitive and more intuitive, not less intuitive, more intuitive. It may not be sending a single byte, it may just be hey, is it still connected? But yeah, because you can just kill the server. If you just kill the browser, the server knows that you're no longer connected. It will get it then knows it's not connected anymore, and will just kill the connection on its side. So it doesn't need to hear from you, I'm leaving. It will know when you leave, because eventually it's gonna check and see you're not there anymore. At some point it will find out. But yeah, for anyone who needs live feedback between two systems, again, mostly the main system will be for chatting. If you want to have a chat system on your site, we can communicate back and forth in real time. Socket.io is definitely going to be one of the main tools for that, because it's what its original use case was for. But at the same time, yeah, like the messaging system on Facebook, notification systems, they tend to use Socket.io. So that way, when a change occurs in the system, instead of them waiting for you to move to another site so that a request goes out to the API, then they can send back data. Instead, the server can just push, say, hey, I got new stuff for you.
I'm assuming with a system like this, you can have some preset messages, like how Facebook can do that with annotations or with certain links, and it has check out this or what, and it just asks you where do you want to send it. Because I'm thinking in terms of my application, hey, this item, where did it go to whoever?
Yep. Well, when they connect, yeah, they'll give you you can put them in channels. You can understand that you can always just respond to the sender. You can get the sender ID and then be able to respond directly to the sender ID, or you can also just do a broadcast to every single system that's connected saying, so that's how you can send like a wide message to all the systems. So if you need to send like a pop-up to everybody saying, hey, let's say you have a bunch of people joining a chat room. That's what Socket.io can have. Socket.io can have a chat room where then everyone's in the same channel. And so you can broadcast a message to the whole channel and everyone will get that message. And then at least the browser will, and then the browser decides what to actually do. Does it tell the user that, or does it just kick them out? Because you could always just send the session is over kind of message. So think like live streaming or something like that. You could send to all the users, hey, the session is over, because you got a ping from the host saying I'm ending the stream. And then you can send to everyone else, hey, the stream has ended, and you can kill the chat or whatever you need to do for the end part of it. So a lot of those systems, I can guarantee YouTube and stuff like that is using some sort of Socket.io technology. They might have a proprietary one now, but it is a Socket.io technology because all browsers support Socket.io.
Very good to know.
Yep. Again, it's just in case, and I can definitely discuss this more if anyone does decide to do any sort of real-time data update that they need to do for their systems. If you wanted to add some sort of chat system to your site, I can talk a little more about it, because I have actually implemented a couple variations of this, both on React and React Native. So I have implemented Socket.io. But at the same time, I want to make sure you understand that you can't send information to the end user. Unless they choose to ping your server, they cannot get updated information. You cannot send them updated information unless they reach out to you. That was the ultimate purpose of this demonstration, is to help that understand. So the problem we have is that scenario. Travis and Nick both go to their browser, they load each other's profile up. They're both about to hit the add friend button, but then Nick gets distracted by his wife, as we've been seeing several people get distracted today by that. So he talks to his wife for a second. Travis hits the button. The request goes out, it gets confirmed. Nick looks back at his browser. Since we can't send Nick's browser an update telling him that Travis has already sent the request, what is Nick going to see?
The add friend button.
Add friend.
Yep. And if he clicks on that, what's going to happen in our current setup?
He's going to send a request.
It's going to create a second request instead of confirming the existing one, right?
Mhm.
And so what we can do here is two things. There's two scenarios we can do to solve this system. Lost my tools. So let's clear for a second. Whenever a request comes in, we do the originator. We got Travis, Ridge, and recip as Nick. And we can just say, okay, well then when a request comes in, let's say now Nick's request comes in, we say, hey, before we create this Nick Travis request, let's see if there's already a Travis Nick request. And if there is, we'll then switch that to friend as approved or whatever we want to do. We'll then approve that one, right? Could do that. At the same time, whenever a request comes in, we can also in a sense, create the inverse at the same time. So we can create the Travis Nick and then the Nick Travis, both saying pending, but that wouldn't work, would it? If we send them both to pending, what could that be a problem with? What problem would this cause? If we were to try to take this route. Any guesses?
One confirms and one denies.
Yeah, how do we know who's supposed to confirm and who's supposed to deny, right? If they're both pending,
Right.
Travis could prove his own request.
Oh, right.
Would
Right?
it be an authentication issue?
Not quite.
Yes.
Not quite. What we could do, of course, is do this instead, though. So the originator was Travis, Nick, and so this one's pending. What we can do here is on this one, set this to another status called waiting. That way Travis can't approve this. Travis is waiting, so he doesn't get a approve option. He gets a request sent. He'll see that on his screen. So if he pulls this down when he's viewing Nick's screen, he'll see a pending stage because on his, even though he's the recipient. On this one, even if we see this or this, whichever one Travis's browser sees, he's going to get a waiting sign. If he's the recipient, it's pending. If he's the originator of a pending, he's going to get waiting. That way we can have both, that way we can search for both. The other kind of difficulty here is just making sure that whenever we change one, we change both, right? So when Nick, of course, comes into approve, we need to make sure we change both of these to approved, right? That's the word we use, not friend.
A lot of this stuff is more front end based, but we do have to update the back end, just the database, just to post these up.
Yeah, and again, I want to kind of expose you guys again to thinking through what we have and what we can do and what options we have. And the more variations of solutions I show you, the more you have in your tool belt, right? That's my goal here, just showing you different ways to approach the problem and thinking, is this a good approach? So we could do this. The benefit to this, of course, is that at any time, if we have these, anytime we pull a friend list, we just have to pull, and when we did our developer model, we know that this alone, where is it? This alone will have all the relationships. If we know whenever a request comes in, we're going to create both variations of them.
Cliff, we're not seeing anything.
Oh, right. That's so annoying that I can't do the whiteboard at the same time as friggin' code. Because on our code, we have this thing here. We would know that this relationship with this model here would have all relationships. If whenever we have a relationship request come in, we create both instances of the request of the relationship where Nick and Travis Nick. Because we have both of them, this will have all relationships, right? Because there's always going to be the originator is going to be, Nick will always have all of his friendships, whether he's just the actual originator or not, he will have a record of all of his friendships where he is an originator. That makes sense? So that's the benefit of this system, of that system there. We only need that one list. On the alternative side, of course, if we don't do this, God dang, give me the eraser, please. You're not gonna be the eraser. Okay. My eraser is broken. I don't think it's broken. What the hell? Oh, resume share. Whiteboard. Eraser. There it goes. Okay. What that was. We don't include the two versions. Like I said, the only thing we have to do is just check to see if a request is already there. And when we want to create the list, we just have to search for, let's say again, for Nick's friends, we just have to search for all relationships where he's the originator, and then search again for all the relationships where he's the recipient, combine them, and that's his friend list. So no matter which way we go, there's gonna, one side, they both have a con in some way. In the single record, the issue is when we're pulling the records, we have to pull twice and combine, right? So you got some processing there. In the other variation, the problem there is the additional status and maintaining 2 rows whenever a relationship status changes, right? So we always have 2 SQL writes or 2 SQL, 2 SQL writes minimum anytime a status is changed to a relationship. Which one feels like it makes the most sense to you guys? Which one do you think would be more easier to use for you guys? What do you think?
Between the two, what is more intensive on the system?
It depends. Yeah, it really just depends on the system itself. Like if you're gonna have 90% of your people are gonna, if like 90% of your users are gonna have millions of friends, then the first one is gonna be more intensive because we have to pull both instances, both the originator and the recipient, and then merge. And we'd have to see in Java, what is the O of N for merging 2 tables together or merging 2 collections together? How difficult is that for Java to handle? Not to mention then having to also sort that data too. Unless there's another way to actually merge the results of those, which there is. You could get fairly complex into SQL, pull the 2 items and then have SQL merge them and sort them. So have to do 2 select queries and combine them into a single result and then sort it as long as they have the same columns. So SQL could make it better. So this would be, if you had a decent SQL developer, in the long run, this might be better.
Freddie
If
could
you have
probably
good SQL
teach
script.
us this.
What's that, Jim?
Freddie could probably teach us this.
It's pretty good. There you go. Freddie has been digging deep into SQL.
Yes.
So yes, if you had a good SQL developer team, this probably in the long run would be better because you could use SQL to merge stuff and SQL can pull and merge data very quickly. And that's all it's in charge of doing. It doesn't do any sort of algorithmic thinking, any sort of step-by-step instructions. It just deals with the data as a whole. That's one of the cool things about SQL versus scripting, versus SQL scripting versus application scripting. Algorithmic scripting is step-by-step, do this, then this, then this. SQL scripting is just work with the data as a whole. So a lot of times if you can get SQL to do stuff by pulling it, it can run a little faster. What I will say though is then, on the counter to that, if your system is going to make a lot of database requests, so if your database is going to be pinged repeatedly for data, then that could be a problem. Because then your SQL system could chug down if it's getting pinged aggressively. So if you're something that has, if you're not doing a microservice system where you have your data in databases stored across other databases, your database could get a little bogged down. So again, a lot of these questions, it's hard to know what the best option is. It depends on what your application is, what are you doing, what is the use cases, are you splitting stuff up, where do you want to put the load, right? And this is the main reason why I discuss this is to make sure you guys understand that when you get into a meeting with a team to discuss, you don't have to consider, you don't have to worry that there is a correct answer all the time. There isn't always necessarily an obvious correct answer. What the team in your company that you eventually get hired for is doing is actually doing that, trying to figure out what is the solution. And they need your help to kind of determine what that best solution is for that company, for your company, for your team, and for what you guys can do, what you guys can actually handle and accomplish, right? And so that's one of the main reasons why I want to discuss this and show this is, again, to point out that there isn't always a black and white, this is the way to do it. All right. For you guys, I want to just know which one is going to make more sense to you guys moving forward, because whatever we use, whatever we decide to use, we're going to be using in our code, so it needs to make sense for you guys. As long as that makes sense. Which one do we might do a poll on this one. So again, the variation is we do single records for the relationships based on Travis. So it will be a single record of Travis, Nick, and that's it. Once we have a relationship between 2 people, person A and person B, we stop. We never have a second record. Other option is no matter what we have, so that would be called the AB relationship done. The other one would be the AB BA relationship. That whenever a relationship comes in between A and B, we automatically create the BA relationship as well. All right. So those are the two variations we have. If we do this, of course, we would have to add another type. Just be aware of that. We would add another type. Yeah, let's create a poll.
That poll gonna be in Slack or something?
Yep, well, no, in Zoom. I'm just creating it. 1 second. All right, create poll. And I will say, if you guys want to discuss it as a class a little bit with each other, go ahead. If anyone has any questions for each other or notes you want to state out loud, you can't tell people what to pick, but you can at least try to help to maybe better understand what your option is. If you have no idea which one to pick right now, ask questions. I can answer or your classmates can answer.
I'm personally interested in the option that doesn't pull as much on the database, thinking about my own project, because I know that there's going to be a lot of things being warped and changed in and out of my own database. So I would want to keep as much off of that as possible. So I'm open for that.
What I would say on that one, if you're worried about, your entities or your rows changing a lot, then the first version, the AB relationship might be better, because then you're only ever modifying a single record. Whereas, like I said, in the AB-BA system, whenever that relationship occurs, like whenever that row, remember one of those two rows experience a change, we have to remember to update the secondary or the inverse row as well. So we have to make sure we update both records. If Nick was to block Travis after giving him this entire headache about this whole friendship thing, we would need to make sure that we do update the Travis-Nick record to show that the Nick-Travis record is blocked now. Otherwise, Travis would still be able to see Nick as a friend. Even though Nick sees it as blocked and doesn't see them, Travis would still see
Did you
it.
post it already?
Not yet. That's what I'm saying. I'm letting people ask more questions before I post it so that people have a better idea of the answer that they want to give. I don't want you guys just guessing like, I guess I'll do this one.
So I guess my question would be then, even though one of them is more taxing on the system, which one is more efficient for the long run of keeping record?
Again, like it depends on what you consider efficient. You could argue that the AB version of it is more efficient in storage because it only ever has one row per record, while the ABBA is doubling your storage space, your storage requirements, because you're creating 2 rows for every relationship. So you can already argue that alone, that and efficiency right there. If your major concern is minimizing your database size, there's your reasoning right there. The ABBA relationship is twice the storage space, 2 times. If your concern, this is, again, constant modifications. If this, in our system, the relationship, I don't really see friendships changing very often. Once people mark themselves as friends, I don't see themselves changing that constantly and going from friends to not friends to friends to friends to blocking to friends again to
It depends
not
on
friends,
who our
you know?
customers are, you know. If they're 10-year-old kids, you know, today you're my friend, tomorrow you're not. Depends
True,
on
but
who our things are.
But in that case, you got to consider the majority of your customers, not just a small fraction. You got to think always in the majority in that, because you can't plan for all scenarios. Like you said, some of our users may be 10-year-olds, some of our users may be people who check in once a week and barely touch the system, but we still have to manage them all. So you got to always think of the majority. And even then, let's say, your system is primarily used by 10-year-olds and they're constantly changing, then the AB system may be better because again, you only have to add that one record. If the data is going to be fairly stagnant, the ABBA can be nicer because it's easier to pull the data because you can just pull one time to get all the information you need.
And you said the one that's less space is the AB one?
Yep, AB is less space, and it's better for constant modifications. Whereas the ABBA is more useful for having, how do I put this right? For pulling the accurate data in a single pull.
So I have one last question, and then I
Without
guess that
fancy
will tell me
SQL,
how I make mine. if I decided that I wanted to go with the fancier one, the ABBA one, is it easy to go back to just a regular AB one? Or is
I
it
could
easy to
see-
go from AB to ABBA? Like you could turn that on and off if you wanted to. The thing is, so like, I want to see the more fancier, the fancier one, because I could see that being a beneficial thing to a lot of different things. But if I'm thinking about my own app, chances are it's probably going to be the AB one because of the fact
Yeah.
that that's more beneficial to me for what I'm making.
I also want to say, I'm actually not sure which one is considered the fancier one. I know the ABBA sounds fancy because it has a longer name, but it's fancier.
Well, that one does more
yeah.
things in it. It has to update both records.
Yes.
So it's going to be more.
But again, the benefit of that again is we only have to pull from the database once to get all the relationships under Nick. Whereas in the AB system, we have to pull twice to get all of Nick's relationships. And so that's where, like I said, like AB is fancy in the side of it's a single record to update, but it's not fancy when having to pull all of Nick's relationships. I have to do something a little more excessive. The ABBA is fancy in the sense that I could do a single pull to get all the data, but whenever I have to make a change, I have to edit 2 records. So like I said, neither one is better and is the best overall. They both have their pros and cons, and they both have their fancy side and their unfancy side. Their pretty side, 1 record to update whenever we make a change. But they also have their ugly side. I have to pull twice to make sure I get every single relationship that Nick or Travis has under their profile. So that's the main thing to remember here is that each one has their pretty side and each one has their ugly side.
Can we just be like Lord of the Rings and have 1 ring to rule them all?
Would love that, but unfortunately in computer science, that's not a thing. Because again, it's really just based on what do you prioritize more as a company. Go for it, Nick.
So practically speaking, what do we see users doing more of? And how does that translate to what we do sort of on the back end? Are we going to be, I think you sort of alluded to this earlier, are we going to be looking to change relationships often or just find them often?
Right. And that can be a good, and that right there will be a good deciding factor for this type of relationship, for this type of system that we're creating. We are creating the relationship model in our system, but again, I want to make sure I'm trying to discuss this in a non-specific sense to what we're doing in our project, because this is a question that will pop up for other types of relationships in your projects.
Sure.
So I want to talk more vague about what the benefits are, not for the relationship specific items. Yes, in our system, we can argue that I don't see many people changing their friendships very often. If we're going to be an adult-focused developer site. So we're focusing on developers. I don't know about you guys, but as a developer, I don't really make a lot of changes in my friendships. Once I'm friends with somebody, I tend to just always say I am, unless we have a really big blowout. And a lot of times it doesn't happen. We just stop talking. And am I really going to go out of my way to
question?
There you go. And so in our site, I don't personally see a lot of changes occurring. Now, I could be wrong, and later on we could see, you know what, our users are constantly changing friends. They're constantly removing friends and changing friend statuses. And let's say later on, we do want to bring in the other status types. Oh, we're friends. Oh, it's professional. It's a secondary connection. Like this is a person, like an acquaintance, the close friend, a work friend, a project buddy. Let's say we want to have different variations on that relationship style so they can have different access rights to other data we store on this site as it grows. To answer Jeff's other question that he asked about the idea of switching between these 2 concepts. Neither one is going to be 100% easy to do. If you want to go from AB to BA back to AB, you have to make sure you delete any copies so that you only have 1 record of each relationship. That you, instead of having both the Travis Nick, you only have the Nick Travis. So you make sure that you don't, whenever you pull a relationship, you check for the secondary of it and then you kill the other one. And so you delete those out. So you only have the 1. Could there be an easy way to do that, or just maybe just soft deleting those items? Possibly. With a inactive, probably. And then switching from AB to BA, switching from AB to ABBA, to the dual side, you then have to pull all your records from the database and have a system that would then create the alternative on each record you already have. So it's not an easy system, it's just algorithmic. And so it would just it would just be an update overnight or something like that to then add all those entries in. The challenge can be how many entries, how many users do you have when you decide to make that change, and how many relationships exist in your system. It could be a fairly large system, as you might need a threaded system, and it would probably just be a, what am I trying to say? Like something that you would want to schedule on a weekend or something, or depending on when your slow days are. Because your site might get a little bogged down when you do it. That makes sense? So always, you can always change these systems. The question is, what will it take to change it, and making sure you decide when. But again, you definitely let your users tell you which one you should use later on. And again, yeah, and you're never gonna, sometimes you'll get it right, but you're never gonna get it right all the time. You're never gonna be able to predict what your users are going to do. Case in point in that, OnlyFans never thought of itself as an adult entertainment site. Never thought of itself that way. Never planned to, never wanted to. It looked at itself as similar to Patreon. It was just supposed to be a way for people to interact with the people, not just give them money and
Even with a name
stuff.
like that?
Yeah. They totally did not expect it at all. And OnlyFans does not sound dirty by itself. It now does, but no, it didn't when it first came out.
Listen, I used to work for Cox Communications, and I'd be embarrassed to tell people I worked there. So,
but there you go. You have a company named Cox Communications. But yeah, the OnlyFans had no idea that people were going to use it for adult services and stuff. But now it does, and they did at one point try to disconnect from it, and they almost
yeah,
died
that
like
worked out
Tumblr.
real well.
They almost died like Tumblr did. So they changed course. I'm like, you know what? Yep, this is what we are now. So that's the idea.
The fans' response was very swift.
It really was. It was like a day and a half.
Yep. Oh
They
yeah.
made that statement. They're like, yeah, we
Never
regret
mind.
that. We're good.
Again, don't bite the hand that feeds. But again, you let the users decide what you are. And sometimes you don't have, and again, you don't always have to accept that. Like I said, Tumblr decided not to. Once Tumblr got bought out by whoever bought it, I think it was Yahoo, they said no more adult stuff on our site, and they stuck to it. They didn't care that they got the backlash. They didn't care about all the anger, and they are not what they used to be. But they are probably happy that at least the owners were like, we're okay with this. We did not want to be that, and we don't care. It's up to you to decide. The customers will tell you what they want. It's up to you to decide, are you going to do it or not? And if you decide not to, you need to be ready to accept that some of those customers are not going to use you anymore if you don't provide something else that keeps them around. Make sense?
That's the same thing with Dr. Nick Diaries. If you listen to the one Kick, K-I-K,
Mm-hmm.
that is
God, what an awful technology.
Just listen to that. It had potential, but they ignored it. When you ignore things, it festers.
I mean, it started with being a platform, and then it just turned evil.
I had an account and I used it for a while because it was nice, but then it got crappy, and I was like, I'm done with this. Bye. I stopped using it.
Just that episode is just really scary. It's just really cool to listen to about it.
Yep. That was a good episode. But that's the thing. Your users dictate what your system is. You can definitely fight it, but it's not always going to work. Sometimes it will. And there's a lot of stories about that. Definitely feel free to look that stuff up of like, hell, again, here's a good one. Google Glass. How'd that go?
Oh,
but how confident was Google about Google Glass?
very confident they should have been. It was actually a great technology, just had a terrible marketing towards it.
And that's the thing. Google, that's a great point there. It should have done well. And Google had a good back behind it. They had the infrastructure behind it. They had the capability behind it, but the users didn't want it, and they couldn't convince the users with the marketing and with the system to actually go for it. And so it died. The users decide.
I think for all I know, they're probably still developing it and making it bigger, and it'll be coming back later.
And I can guarantee you, if you look around the internet, you'll find stories of updates to systems that the users didn't like that got rolled back. You can find out about those. You can find out about features that got added that were not used and eventually got just discontinued as a feature because no one used it. Hell, Google Music was a thing as well, and eventually got switched to YouTube Music because no one used Google Music, and eventually YouTube Music was already kind of a thing, not naturally, but it was a thing just because people would create video playlists of their favorite music. And so they're like, we should just merge the systems. And so they went to YouTube Music, which was a smart move. They let the users dictate what to do. Instead of trying to push everyone on YouTube to use Google Music, it's like, you know what? All these YouTube users who are using YouTube for music, let's give them a music platform for that and adjust it based on what the users want.
Google Music sucks. I'll just tell you that. Google Music.
Does it still exist? I thought they killed it.
The first one I liked because it was free. I can use it and do everything. Now they got this, this U Music or something like that?
YouTube Music.
Yeah, YouTube Music. Oh, you want your user stuff? You gotta pay. Hey, wait, and wait, you can't even shut your screen off while it's playing too.
Hold on, Jim. We're not gonna complain about products. That's not what we're doing today.
This thing's worse than Google Music.
For you for using the free version, I actually really like it because I get it with my YouTube Premium subscription, so it's fine for me.
About the Google Glasses, yeah, 1.0 probably failed, but you probably see 3.0 or whatever down the road might be a much better.
But I can guarantee so many times it's users who decide what to do. And honestly, if you really look into it, you can find these features. YouTube does it. Other tools like Netflix will do it and stuff like that. They will send out updates to users without letting those users know, but only certain users will see it, and they will test the new feature before that company puts all their eggs into that and says, we need to really develop this fully. Let's push this new feature out to a bunch of our, to a select group of our users, to certain people, a certain number of our users.
You can actually just select to be part of the beta testers. If you go into your email, you can go in there and put in.
Yeah, some of the Play Stores I have, I'm selected. Yep.
100%. And that's something that a lot of companies are doing nowadays. They realize if we take the time and just give people features that we think they need, we could end up wasting our money on a feature that no one wants to use. And they've seen that happen constantly. They've seen that happen so many times. So instead, they're now doing the system. You know what? We take feedback. We see what we watch social media, see what our users are saying about our products, see what they're saying about it, see what they're complaining about, see what they love. What they love, we'll make that better. What they hate, we'll try to make it better or get rid of it. And we'll enable beta systems so they can test the features we think they want and see if they actually do want it. They're like, you know what? We think people like this. No one's told us they want this, but you know what? We think it would be better. So let's let some of our users, instead of giving it to everyone where we can get major backlash if this thing is horrible, we'll give it to a couple of our users. So only we'll get a couple complaints and then we can kill it before everyone gets angry at us. And we get a huge negative hit on social media. And so one is that you let your users dictate, but you do have to start with something. And that's what we're doing now. So let me go ahead and launch the poll now. The poll is launched. Basically for this, you just want to let me know what you want to see.
See if I can get my mouse over there.
Just give me a second for some odd reason.
I can't get my
Mouse
mouse.
is not working. We were just talking about mice too.
No.
Yep.
Here's a condition of my mouse.
Looks not good.
I just took it apart.
I didn't even look. I'm watching the results as they go. It's actually pretty close.
I took the
So
wheels actually
I
broke.
want to see both.
Get pieces for it.
Oh, you don't have an option for both?
I do not. If we have time, maybe, but no, we probably won't have time. Ooh, that was sudden. It flipped. One was ahead by 2, and now it's down by 1. That is 16 out of 17. Is it counting me or no? I don't know if it's counting me. And
Did you vote?
Richard's still away. I don't vote. Oh, God damn it. Who just switched?
I don't think you can switch. As soon as I clicked
Really?
on it, it went away.
Yeah, you can't.
Oh, then was it 15 out of 17? God damn it. So there's 16 people currently voting. What do you guess my results are right now?
I'm gonna
8 and
say
8?
that.
Nope.
1 in 15.
Oh, 1 in 15 would be great, but no. He just said it was pretty even for a moment there, so
It's a
there's no way
draw.
it could be 1 in 15.
So if
Nope.
you're
Maybe,
close,
maybe he only saw 2 votes. Who knows?
I wish I could see who hasn't answered. I wish I could. Can I not see that? It's probably Richard though, because he was away. Oh no, he's not away now. Who didn't answer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, there's 17 of you minus me. There it goes. So whoever just voted just broke the tie.
Well, that answered that question. It was a tie.
Yep, you can see it now. That was close. I don't know what to do now because I hate when the things are that close. It's like I feel bad for those who actually wanted to see the other variation of it. Damn it.
You were hoping for a landslide or at least somewhat overwhelming.
Well, at least just say obvious. I like obvious winners, not a landslide, but just say, yep, there was enough here. And like, I feel bad. Like, I don't mind feeling a little bad for the group, but I hate when it's like a lose by 1 or 2. It's like,
So
God
what
damn
you
it.
could do, what you could do is you could just do with the one that won and then just show us how to transition it to the other one if there's
Yeah.
time.
Or at least put in a comment, maybe the line of code that you might use if you had the second one. But, well, or at least discuss it. We may not be able to see it in code, but at least discuss it minimally of what you would do for the other variation. We'll play with it though. But very fascinating. I'm actually interested. That's very fascinating. You guys actually want to see both. I'm actually interested in that. Cool. All right. Yep. Let's see. All right. Cool. That was people responding that they were actually here. Cool. All right. All right. That's fun. Well, we'll do we'll do the one, and we'll make sure to keep discussing the other variations. So let's go back to the actual code now. All right, so back to here, back to our relationship controller. So in this case, yes, so same question we were doing before now. We only create the one record. So now Travis came in, he sent it in saying, yep, hey, I want to be friends with Nick. So now let's say, yeah, Nick accidentally comes in and sends in a request. What we need to do is check to see if the relationship already exists. We also could, just for the fun of it, double check when also Travis goes in to see if the existing request is already there too. Unfortunately, we did not say that it's a one of a kind, I believe. These items cannot be, we could technically put in 2 of the same record between Travis and Nick. We haven't done anything here to prevent that. So there's 2 things we need to do. Check for a RID. Actually, we'll do user recipient. For an existing, there we go, an existing user recipient relation. And actually, we want to do that after we pull them. Sorry, that's the wrong spot. I'm doing that one here. So no matter what, we need to pull the current user, get there and make sure this exists, make sure this is valid. We need to pull the originator, pull the recipient, and then before we save, now we're going to want to check to see if they exist. So check for existing user recipient. If that exists, what do we do? So this is the idea of this question is, and I'm just doing this for consistency's sake. We have a Travis Nick pending already in the system, and Travis just sent another request to say he wants Nick as his friend. He got impatient. Let's say let's say in our system we didn't disable the button, and so Nick double tapped it. Or another scenario, Nick has it on his, let's say Travis is he's trying to be a malicious user on us and test what he can do on our site. Travis can be the malicious instead of Matt today. So where'd you guys go? There you guys. Why does it not show that by default anymore? It's kind of annoying. But yeah, Travis could be a little malicious today. We'll say that Travis attempted to, what the, you guys still see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Good, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just popped on the main screen for a second there. We can say, yeah, so Travis being malicious today, he decides, you know what, I'm gonna open the window up on my browser, and I'm also gonna open the same page up on my phone. I'm gonna hit add a friend on the browser, and I'll also hit add friend on the phone and see if that'll trigger an auto friendship and see if I can force a friendship, because with the first click, the request will exist. Maybe I can authorize it myself by sending a second request. It'll read it as I'm trying to approve the existing one.
Wait, is that a thing?
Could try. Again, this is, so what Travis would be trying to do is trying to do what we said before, that if Travis clicked on add friend and then Nick clicked on add friend a couple seconds later, it would approve it. That's what we want when Nick does it. So in the scenario I gave before, where Travis and Nick are both on the page, Nick gets distracted, Travis sends it, and then Nick sends it, we would want to approve that. Because if we got a send request to Nick and then Nick wants to send a request to Travis, we should just approve that friendship, right? In all logical thinking. What the thinking the malicious user can be like, well, if I send a request that gets created, if I can send a second request that finds an existing one, maybe their logic isn't great, and I could force it to approve that without their needing to approve it for me. Not to say it should. If we create good logic, it won't. But that's why we're going to check for it and stop it. This could just be a malicious user's thought process of what they're trying to do. What can they do to this site? You know? So you can do that. Now you can be malicious and try to be, because in a lot of systems, you can only private message someone you're friends with, right? You can only private message a friend. If I can force you to be friends with me, now I can start sending you spam messages. And if you can't do anything to stop me, now I have a benefit to doing that. If I can force a friendship, I can now send you direct messages and I can spam you. So that would be a reason why a malicious user would want to try to force a friendship. And so they're going to try different ways to get that to happen. Make sense? Cool. So if Travis now sends another request in, what should we do? So Travis sends another request to be friends with Nick. We already have this. What should our system do?
It should check to see if Travis already put in a friend request.
Yep. And if it finds that it is there, what should we do?
Nothing.
Good. Yep. We should just, we can send back, yep, it's there. We can send back an okay, but we don't actually do anything. We can literally send back the exact same, where is it?
Pending.
Not pending.
Or you could send a message to say
could just-
friend request already sent or something.
Could send
like
that. Yeah, we could send the error message. We could also just send this back again. Just send back the exact same message saying, yep, success created. We created the request. It's there. So that way they don't know that they did anything different. And they have no way of knowing if they affected our system in any way or that they get no data from us. So yeah, we could just send back already existing. We could send back the same created. We could send back okay. The main thing is just in our database, we do nothing.
You should send back a message that says, nice try, be patient.
Totally good. That's what's fun about it. Totally good. So let's look for it. Clicking on mouse would help. There we go. So what we should do is do relationship rel. I don't like typing out relationship, so rel. A lot of the R words, rec, res, relationship, you'll get like rel. You'll see a lot of 3 words, 3 letters for those. Repository dot find. And what we need is now, yeah, this right here, the find by originator ID and recipient ID. We use that one. The originator ID is going to be our Travis or originator. Get ID. And the second one is going to be our recipient dot get ID. Not that. That. I'll clean up my drawings. Pull that over. Again, what does this return?
Optional.
That it does. Now, do we want to throw when we don't find anything? Or is that what we want to find? We actually want to find nothing, right?
We would want to find nothing.
We're expecting to find nothing. The oddity would be that there's something already there. So in this case, we don't want to do the or, so we actually want to do the optional. And I have apparently highlighted the R. Optional relationship. I didn't import, so there we go. REL dot is present. This is the bad thing. This is what we want. If REL is, no, I want the color brackets. What am I doing? If REL is present, this is when this is now we're done. We're like, nope, we don't want this anymore. So now we can do the return, new response entity, message response. Nice try. Be patient. Happy? I'm okay having fun. This is the geek site. We can have fun with this. HTTP status. And we can just say, okay, it's fine. It's not, again, nothing went wrong, not a bad request. We didn't, nothing went, we don't want them to think that they can do it again. Bad request means try again in most cases. This is just an okay. Okay, but yeah, you don't get, nothing changed. We didn't create a new record. We didn't change anything. Sound good? All right. Now we get to do check for existing recipient user relationship. Now I know I said pending here, but this one, I guess it doesn't have to be anything specific. We just need to see if it exists at all. If it exists at all, we shouldn't do anything because we don't need to create a pending. If it exists and it's blocked, we shouldn't change anything. If it exists and it's already a friend, we shouldn't do anything. If it exists and it's pending, we shouldn't do anything. So in this case, yeah, we don't care what the status is. We could, of course, change if we ever do actually use the none, but like I said before, we have it in for the future. We're not actually using it right now. I'm not going to add the logic to check that. But on this side, check for existing user relationship. We only existing user relationship. When we find it, which status do we actually care about? If it already exists in their friends, what do we do? So if Nick sends the request in and we look for it and we see, oh, they're already friends, what do we want to do to the system? I want to hear more people other than Jeff. Jeff's been responding a lot today. I want to hear other people. Come on, people.
It's because I'm friendly.
I'm okay with that. I just don't want people ratting on your answers. I want people to think for themselves too. So again, this is in this scenario, Travis sent the request. Nick is now sending in an add request, a create friend request. We've checked our system and we're trying to think of all the possible scenarios. Possible scenario 1 doesn't exist. We know what to do there, create it. Possible scenario 2, the relationship does exist and it's pending. We said we want to do what? We'll change it for now. We'll change the question. So we said if we find it and it's pending, what do we want to do? So, pending. What do we want to do?
Isn't line 54 through 56 related to a pending relationship?
Pending on a user recipient relationship. This is a recipient user relationship. This is the AB model. The AB model, we have to check for both now because again, when you're sending a request, we're going to be creating so when Travis sent in his request, what got created was the TN pending. Travis to Nick pending request. When you send in the request, you're attempting to create a NT pending. But since we're using the AB model, we don't want to create this if this one already exists, right? This already exists. We don't want this because this then becomes the AB model, ABBA model. So that's why we're checking to see if this one already exists. And then we have to think of all the possible scenarios that could run into play. Because again, you can technically, once you go to Travis's profile, you can leave that open for a while and walk away from your computer. So you leave that open, you walk away from your computer. Travis sends a request, you pull up your phone, you pull up the profile, see, oh, hey, I got it's on my phone, it says accept friend. All right, I'll accept it. Now you've accepted the friend request. This is now changed to approved. You then go back to your computer and you see, wait, Travis's profile says add friend. I should click that. So you click add friend again. So now you send in a request trying to create a NT with a TN approved already existing. See how we can have multiple scenarios where we can't just handle one. We need able to handle all the possibilities. We don't know what our user is going to do. You should be smart enough as a developer. You would know, I don't need to do this. I already approved it on my phone. I'm just going to refresh the page. Is your mother going to be confident enough to know that? Is your grandmother going to be confident enough to know that? Or are they going to think, oh, this is live, right? We have to remember that not all our users are going to think like a developer. So again, the first question though is in the scenario, we have the TN pending, you're attempting to create an NT, we don't want to create the NT pending. So we search, we say the TN, so in this scenario here, TN doesn't exist. So we create the NT pending. That's what this says. So now in this scenario where we have the TN pending and you're trying to create one, what should we actually do? So Travis said, I want to be friends with Nick. And now you're sending in, I want to be friends with Travis. So what should we do to this record if we get that?
Approve it.
Was it Travis?
Approve it.
Yeah, makes sense, right? If we already have a pending, because we already got a message from Travis saying, hey, I want to be friends with Nick. And then a couple seconds later, Nick says, hey, I want to be friends with Travis. Instead of sending each other approvals, they, oh, wait, you got to go approve it. You can't send a request. You got to go to this screen and approve. That's not very convenient for the user, right? We can just approve it. So in this case, if pending.
Not that I want to be the bearer of bad news, but I have a question. So you just said as long as you see two, it's all about just trying to figure out, like you said, you know, ways to break it. You just said if you see two requests, what if I sent that request by accident and I didn't mean to send that, but I did? Now you immediately approved it. Shouldn't there be a some way of confirmation or verification? And second, the approval that you were just talking about, when it comes through,
Well,
does it send a notification to both people and tell them that they were approved? Because how would I know if it was approved?
We definitely can. And we can always send it with the message response and respond accordingly. So we can definitely make sure our front end can validate that. And that's an interesting point.
Okay, so that's a front thing. Okay.
Yeah. What I would say is it's dangerous to ever assume that a request that comes in was accidental. We have to be somewhat reliant, unless it's a dangerous item. So on a friend request, if we approve it and there was an accidental click, the worst case scenario, they go in and they remove the friendship or block it. It's not a big scenario. Yes, we definitely want to be careful for things like sending money and changing a password. And for those items, yes, we need to confirm. Yes, we need to make sure it wasn't an accidental click. For deletions, we should have a system to make sure it's not an accidental click. For things that aren't going to impact and are easily reversible, we should, in most cases, and are not very big on impact as a developer, we want to tend to just assume that the user is acting as the intent. We don't get asked, hey, did you mean to like that video, right? Same concept. So I've definitely accidentally liked things I didn't intend to. Scrolling through TikTok, I've done it. I went to go swipe. I touched the screen to go swipe, and I didn't get a good grip, so I ended up double tapping as I swiped, and I had to go back and unhard it. They don't ask me, hey, did you mean to like that? They never ask me that. So that's kind of the concept there. I never get asked if I meant to follow someone or something like that. So you want to definitely gauge, is it necessary to ask for confirmation? Is this something that's important enough to if a person made a mistake, that I should confirm every single time they do it? Or is it something where I can assume that the intention and they can undo it if they didn't? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I guess my confirmation thing was more of if someone was trying to do it behind, you know, that I wasn't aware of. Like, was there a way to note a second line of confirmation that lets me know that I just became friends with Nick because Nick
you'd already been waiting.
You know who?
Well, yeah. Again, like I said, yeah. Again, it's one of the things where a good user experience would probably be to let them know that, or again, you could also just not show it right away because it's gonna when we send back the okay, our front end can just show it as a pending request, and then as soon as Nick goes into the screen, he can then see as his friend, hey, I'm friends with Travis. Travis must have approved it. Nick will most likely assume that Travis approved it quickly, and maybe he's online and saw it right away. Most users won't notice that change occurred because, again, we're not usually, on most systems, we're not getting instant gratification. And so it's unlikely that they would have known that their clicking of send request is what actually approved an existing one, unless we tell them that. Nick will probably, or a standard user would they would click it, they would see that the button goes sent. They'll go to another screen, and unless we give them a notification saying, hey, Nick Travis is now your friend, and I don't think they do that on Facebook anymore. Like, I don't know. I don't send requests. When you send a friend request on Facebook, if the person approves it, do you get an instant message saying that they just did? Or does it show when you go there?
Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. Like, you'll get a little thing at the bottom on Messenger that says you can now message this person. Or
you're right.
I've seen that. You'll get the little notification, your thing at the top that says that you and that person, they accepted your friendship. But
true. So again, that's just how you want your
system.
Yeah, and that's really just, again, how do you want your system to be? That's, again, more of a user experience concept. How do you want to handle it? So yeah, there's, again, no real right answer. Just how do you want your users? And really, in that case, that's another scenario where your user will tell you, I don't like this, whatever's happening. And they'll complain like, hey, I did this and I was instantly friends. What happened? And if you get a lot of those and you realize, okay, I got to change my system. So A lot of times, yeah, there's a lot of things that that websites you go to do in the background that you don't understand what's going on. You just assume how it's working, and it doesn't work that way. And because you don't know, you're fine with it. And unless the users get a bunch of errors on it, they're not going to worry about changing it. As long as it works, it works. A lot of times, yeah, sites will do what we think our users want, but then we'll only change it if we need to. So it's really just up to you what you think you want your users to experience with your site. Make sense?
Makes
Is it,
sense.
So yeah, if I actually had
Good
my
questions.
if I had my phone and had my free computers in front of me and I pushed the like or the friendship button on all 3 computers at once, it's just gonna be whichever the first device actually gets to be able to talk to the server first, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. So now we have this scenario where the TN request is approved. We're trying to create the TN pending, the NT pending. We see that it's approved already. What should we do?
Update our records.
To what?
To approve.
That's already good, right? We don't need to change anything. So the Travis Nick relationship is approved. We got a request for NT pending. That's what this route is trying to do. If it's already approved, we shouldn't change this to pending or change it to approve or anything. We should just keep it as is. It's already good, so do nothing. One more scenario. Travis and Nick are both looking at each other's profiles. Travis goes, "Oh, Nick, oh God, he's on this? No." Travis then sends a request, says, "Hey," Nick then says, "Oh, I like Travis. Travis is funny. He's on the moon. I'm going to send a friend request." What should we do in this scenario?
Send him a request that says denied.
Could
In
do
the
that.
developer community, that's funny. Anywhere else, probably not.
Right. Yes. Thank you for that, Jeff. So if blocked, we should check in the database. What should we do? How you respond front end, I don't care. What should we do in the database though?
So that's a good question. Should you block it permanently, or should you just say no and not update the record?
Well, technically it is. Technically, by having this record here, he is already blocked. Again, the idea here is, again, since we can't, once Travis sends a block, we can't update Nick's browser to show that. And so until Nick refreshes his page, he's going to see that add friend button. And so this is the concept of that race condition kind of system. Travis and Nick are both on the website at the same time. Travis is on Nick's profile. Nick is on Travis's profile. Travis clicks block first and his request gets processed. Sorry, Travis's, yeah. Travis blocks Nick first and it gets processed. Nick maybe got distracted for a couple seconds or was reading Travis's profile, confirming that it's the Travis he thinks it is, and says, "Okay, now I want to add friends." He hasn't refreshed his page, so the button won't update to show that Travis blocked him. So he can click and send that request. And in all technicality, Nick could try to be a malicious user and send that request via Postman too, right? He could attempt to send the request via Postman if he's a sniffer, if he's someone who's sniffed through our system and knows what that request looks like. He could attempt that request through something like Postman and push that request through even if our front end won't let him. We need to know that this request can come in, that this request could possibly come in, even though our front end didn't do it, but that someone sent it in through a different tool. And so what's happening is that, yeah, this request, this process is attempting to create this request. And the end result, if this gets to the end here, down to the bottom, this is what it's trying to create in a normal behavior. We're trying to come up with all the alternatives of what we want to do instead based on an existing record. And so yes, if the TN pending already exists, we approve it. We just update this one. We don't actually create this, we update the original. If the item is approved, we don't need to change it because it's already approved. We're good. They're already friends. So we don't need to send another friend request. We can they're already friends. So just ignore it. And if then on the other hand, though, it was blocked. Again, Travis was faster than Nick. Nick didn't refresh his page. So now he sent the friend request to a person who blocked him. In the database, should we make any changes to this row?
No.
Exactly. Good. Yep. Nothing. We do nothing on this case. We do not
Just
create
realized
it.
This whole time my camera was off.
Yep, it was.
I thought it was on. You know what? I think I thought I hit mute like Connor was saying, and I hit stop video. So this whole time I've been thinking my camera was on and it wasn't.
Nick, update your lesson to do videos as well.
deal. That's an advanced topic, obviously.
Gotcha. And that's retaliation on Travis blocking him.
Grr, shaking my fist.
So those are all our potential scenarios we have to worry about running into. Sound good?
One more potential.
Oh God, what you got? I'm curious now.
So if I send you a friend and it's instant pending, right?
Mhm.
But I just said, you know what, I don't like him, I'm gonna block him and not approve it.
Different route. So this route is creating this. So we would have a block route that would handle that.
Okay,
So yeah, this is coming in trying, the only item this route does, this is the add route. The end result of this route is to create the NT pending, or the user recipient pending record in the database.
So what happens when Nick just said no to doing videos and I decide I want to pull my request back?
We would need another route for that again. So that'd be another route saying delete, or delete relationship. So we need a delete relationship route. You would just go to that and delete your relationship.
so when I just posed, the one I just questioned about, what route would that be?
That would be the block RID.
Oh.
So we're going to create the post mapping or the put mapping block RID. So block
Right,
this
but
recipient.
The question is that I'm asking you to be my friend, but then you look at it and you say, no, I don't want, because you can approve it.
Well, here's the thing. Hold on. Before you do that, we haven't created a response to an existing record yet. So again, this is just add RID, and we're just thinking of all the potential scenarios that can happen if someone hits this route. Where could this item be already? This is only handling the I want to create a pending request with this person. That's all this route is handling.
Okay.
To respond to that, we're gonna have a different route for that, or we could theoretically use this route again. We can always just use this route for that.
Theoretically,
That's
in
front
that
end.
conversation about blocking while there is a request pending, would that
Mhm.
instance of block just terminate that instance of the request in response?
No, it would actually change that relationship to block. So if there's a pending request or even a friend request, even if you have approved it, as soon as you click the block, that should block them.
Okay,
So it should turn that relationship straight to block.
gotcha.
So either create it, whatever we should do is should either, if no record is found, it should block them. We're going to create that route in a second, actually. If no record is found, create a block record. If a record is found, regardless of the current status, that status is now blocked.
Cliff?
Blocking should always take priority. Yes, Jim?
I see a little like block on my screen that looks like it would be your, it looks like your toolbar.
Yeah, probably his Zoom.
Yeah, it's on Zoom. It's in the middle of the screen. Oh, well, it's not in the middle of the screen. It's on top of the screen. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
you're playing around there. Yeah.
This thing?
Yeah, that thing right there. Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
we
did-
can
Well,
see
it's
that.
grayed
Yeah.
out for us, so
Strange.
we'll
I didn't
see
know
the
those.
shape.
Weird.
I
It
didn't
is
know
my
those.
annotation stuff. Yeah, that's actually my annotation bar for when I'm drawing. So
Yeah, it's
I
on
don't need it
some
right now,
codes,
so,
but,
yeah.
I'm just letting you know that. But
thank you. Good to know.
this post mapping, this is basically not add. This is just requesting, basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Add or request. Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. This is just to create the pending. That's all it's trying to do. But we got to make sure we understand that because we have the AB system, we have to check for the existence of it or the item already. So let's handle these scenarios. So now let's go ahead and we first just want to pull that relationship, and then we can do a switch statement to check if it exists. If it exists, what to do with it. So first, optional relationship. Inverse relate REL. So that's the inverse relationship of the recipient user. Find by originator ID and recipient. But in this case, we're going to be giving it the recipient ID first and the originator ID second. That's how it's reverse. It's inverse. We see that the item is found by originator and recipient, but we give it recipient originator. So inversed. The items are inversed. Hopefully that follows. Inverse is a very common term in computer science. So you want to make sure you're familiar with that terminology.
What was the term?
Inverse.
Inverse. Yep.
The opposite, pretty much. Yeah. All right. Once we have this, we're going to do a simple if in our inverse relationship is present. So if it's present, we want to do something different. If it's not present, we do this stuff right here. If it's not present, we're going to go ahead and create it. If it is, we now want to do something based on what of these 3 items it is. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a switch statement. So there's 3 different scenarios, and if statements suck in that case. We do switch in relationship dot get type, I believe it is, right? Oh, right. First, we got to do get the class. So in rel get, that gets the relationship itself. Then we can do dot get type. And that way we don't have to run this get type method multiple times. If we do the if statements on every single if statement, we'd have to do dot get type in each if statement and each if else. So in this case, by doing this, we just have to do the inv dot get type one time. Case relationship. Pending. I think it needs to be in a parenthesis. No, not.
Just put pending in all caps.
Yeah. All right, cool. Double quotes.
Mine worked without the parentheses.
Oh, right. Okay. That's cool with enum now. Okay. I don't need to do the e-relationship.pending. That's actually nice. I totally, in JavaScript, I think you would have to do that. So that's actually good. I like that. All right, nice. Case pending. This actually makes our code a lot cleaner. Case pending, we want to approve it. So let's go ahead and take the inv rel to set type, dot get, right? Set type. To I think I do need to do, yeah, relationship dot accept. Oh, accepted. I do need to do that. Okay, so here I do need to do that because it doesn't know it's type like that, and then we can do repository dot save in the rel dot get. And again, we got to do that dot get because we're working with an optional. The dot get gives us the actual object. Then return. Actually, yeah, we probably should because different statuses. So you and response entity response. And again, this is where, as Jeff is pointing out, if we wanted to let that user know when they clicked it that they already had it, that they were already pending and that they've approved it, that they're already friends, we could add it here. Otherwise, we can literally just mimic this one right here and just make it seem like we created the item that they wanted and let them notice that they're friends later. So you're under no obligation to let them know that they have actually approved it. You just need to let them know that their request went through, and at some point they will notice, oh, hey, we are friends. Cool, they must have approved it. There's a lot of like assumptions in some websites. So do be aware that some websites do rely on assumption, and that is okay. You only need to worry about not doing that if your users are catching on and are actually noticing things and they're not sure what's happening. Then you can't rely on assumption because they aren't able to assume. They're not sure what's happening. If people are assuming, you're fine. Your website works fine. If people can't tell what's happening because they're unable to assume, then you need to make changes. It's okay though to let people assume what's happening. So I guarantee before you took this class, a lot of things you were doing on the website, on the internet and on your computers, you assumed a lot of how it worked. And now you see differently how things work. Especially with Dark Knight Diaries too. You realize a lot that the things work a lot differently than you originally thought they did.
That's for
fine.
sure.
Cool. I'm exposing the world. Changing all your minds. So next one is the approved. Accepted. God damn it. I put approved there. Accepted. There we go. It's going to return new response entity.
Are there no break statements after the first case?
Return means you don't need a break. Remember, return ends the method already. So multiple ways to end a switch is either return or break. So yeah.
Been a while.
What's that? Oh yeah, been a while. Yeah, I get it. No worries. Very nice. And this one again, if we want to, we could always say, we could be a little snarky, say you are friends already. And then be like, you can't be best friends. There we go. You can't be best friends.
What if we wanted to be best friends? Can we
We
incorporate
don't.
that to be better friends?
If you want to put them in the system, by all means, just add a new friend type to your system. 100% you could add that.
Do the you could do the you're already friends. Stop taxing our system.
Okay, I like that one better. Sorry. You're already friends. And I can't spell
Second
apparently.
request denied.
Taxing our system. Well, the reason why it's funny is because again, this is a developer page, so they would a developer would find this funny. On like Facebook, they're like, "What do you mean?" But on a developer social media, this would definitely get a chuckle. At least I would chuckle at it if a server told me that. That is dot, and we'll just do an OK on this one because we didn't create anything. Good. And then last but not least, as we said, case blocked. Now, this is again a situation where you have to consider your site and a developer. Maybe in this system, maybe it's okay to tell the person is blocked, but you also got to consider in, and not to get a little dark on this one a little bit, even in the developer industry, we do know that there are places that are unfortunately sexist to females in the developer industry. There are some boys clubs in the developer world. We as men have to know that it does exist, unfortunately. We can't deny it, we can't turn a blind eye to it, otherwise we're part of the problem. That environment does exist. And so telling someone that they've been blocked could invoke a negative response. Is that correct? You got to think of that. And so in this case, it may be better not to tell them and just to send back the success created message so that the person doesn't confront the other person and say, hey, you blocked me, how dare you? We don't know the situation and we want to make sure that they're safe. Does that make sense?
GG's, get good.
Again, since we're not actually making this public, we can definitely do that in this system, but in public systems, you always want to be aware of the environment and make sure you're keeping your people safe. But yeah, GG. We are going to send back the HTTP status of OK. Again, they can't send this again to try in a different way to make it work. The request and the status is OK. Nothing was wrong. Last but not least, we're going to do a default. We always have to have a default, and this one's just going to do a return to responsive message request response server error default. The users don't need to know what that means. This is something they can provide to us when they contact our team. They can just say, hey, I got a server error default relationship. Our users, our team would then be able to check as what that is. We could also add that to the log, but this is enough for us. Again, if we hit this, I have no idea. For me, there's no reason this should hit, so I wouldn't know what to send. So I can just send a generic message. And this is always important to send as just the safety blanket and safety method, safety system. So since every single route of our switch statement is a return, we do not have to worry about actually doing return outside of the switch statement because there's no way for this to not hit a return inside it. If the if statement is triggered, it will hit a return somewhere in the switch, no matter what. So if we hit this line, we know that this does not exist and this does not exist. And so we are now safe to create a fresh record. Sound good? That is a completely finished add friend request item with the AB model.
Wow.
A little more robust, right? Than what we've created before. And these are things,
Wow.
yeah. And one of the reasons why I want to show this is so that you guys can be okay with some of your models, some of your routes being a little more complex as you build them out. Once you get the basics going, if you see them getting bigger and you think to yourself, is this really what it needs? Do I really need all this? Sometimes you do, especially when there's a lot of potential scenarios that could happen. There's a lot of what are called edge cases that can occur, of scenarios that can happen, because again, the data isn't always live. The actions can be delayed. Hell, even if Travis and Nick would have hit the button at the same time, if Travis was on dial-up for some reason, not sure why, we don't know what the moon's internet speeds are. Then again, he's just on the internet, so that he has to send that back to our Earth servers. So if Travis and Nick, Nick's on planet Earth, they hit the button the exact same time, I have a pretty safe bet saying that Nick's request will probably get evaluated first. You know, proximity. Moon's a little far.
Depends on, what side the satellite's on.
Yeah, true. That could help. That could give Travis a slight edge, maybe, if he's lucky. But that's the thing we got to consider. We don't know like who's going to get there first. And since again, websites are not live and requests can come in anyway. Again, if we don't code our front end right, we allow for double clicks. This is something I ran into with friend requests. When I built my first web app, my first demo of the social media app I did for mobile. When someone hit the add friend, I didn't disable the button during the request to try to create it initially. So a couple of people would double click on it or triple click on it, and then my system would crash because I didn't check, and I tried to then create a second friend request system. That's why. So I will clarify. Part of why I knew to do this stuff is because I've done exactly this before. So don't feel like you should know all this off the top of your head like I do. But I'm trying to open you guys to thinking of these things and helping you guys to think of these potential items because I had to deal with them myself. So, and at the same time, now I'm letting you guys know that if you don't think of this, it's fine. Your demo will break and you'll realize, oh, okay, I do need this. You will figure it out eventually. So don't worry about it if you're not figuring that out. I just want to be able to show you these things at some point. You can see these. So with that, what I want to do is this actually. You got not there. Let's do another post mapping. I'm going to do post, even though it's not necessary, but because it's a chance we might create something. I'm going to do the post mapping block/ID, RID. So many blank spaces there, yeah. Did I put the data type in there? I don't know if I did. Yeah, message response. Okay, good, I did. Oh, need the at there. All right, so we got that. And that's supposed to be double quotes on there. All right, so this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to at least bring in this system here. So I'll bring in this and these. So we know for this, we're going to need this stuff is already there. So these three things are given. I'm pretty confident you guys understand how this works, right? What the purpose of these three items are for, right? So copy that and just bring that in. The basic requirement here is that the minimum thing that this request is trying to do is what? And again, thinking of how I wrote it before. So the previous route was trying to create, and we can again use the TNN for it, was trying to create TN pending, right? And I'm not using my pen for some reason. I don't know why I'm not. Where did I put my pen? There it is. TN pending. That was what the add route did. Add/RID added. This is the block/RID route. And what TN route is this trying to create? The basic, like the ultimate goal of this route is to do what? TN what?
Blocked.
Yeah, TN blocked. So in that case, all we're going to do here is a try just to get the practice in there. Save relationship. originator, recipient, the relationship. And then we'll do the same catch exception. So I'll just copy that down. You guys create the edge case solutions. The two types again. So first one, TN already exists. So this is again in a block. We come in and TN something. I'm not saying what it is yet, but the relationship already exists with some sort of status. Pending, approved, or blocked already exists. So you need to decide what do we do in that scenario, right? So what we do in each of those scenarios. What we'll do is as a class, we'll come up with what those should be. So exists if pending. In this scenario, Travis and Nick look at each other. Travis sent a request, but then Travis found out Nick was not going to cover videos, and so Travis was like, never mind, I don't want to be friends with him anymore. Taking on Jeff's concept and said, I'm now going to block him. How should we update this record of the TN pending? What should happen?
It should just delete it, no?
Well, deleting it, what would that do? If I delete it, what can Nick do then?
He can just do it again.
Nick could then send a request himself, right? It doesn't block it. If he just wants, if he's like, I don't want to be his friends, but I don't want to block him, then I would just go to delete. This is explicitly to block. This is the explicit block route. I clicked on a button that says block, not cancel, or not.
Do we
delete.
have something in there that says that there's basically it's like a placeholder that says I can't take in a request because there's already something here, but it's enough for you don't submit that connection.
Well, isn't this like a put request in that instance where you would just update the necessary field?
Again, if the other one doesn't exist, we will create it. So this one could be either or, put or post, because we're either going to edit an existing one or create a new one. So like we show here, if the relationship doesn't exist, we're going to create. So we are going to create like a post normally does. But yes, we also want to just to make our life easier. If it exists, we will go ahead and edit. And that's a more modern solution nowadays. In the past, that wasn't something posts did. They would only create, and if it existed, they would give you an error. Modern systems now, they will go ahead and update as well. Post can do both now. So in this case, yes. So if Travis sent out a request, it's now pending. Nick hasn't responded yet, and then Travis goes onto our system, and instead of going to the friend request and canceling the request, he goes to Travis's page and clicks block. What should happen? If you guys agree that we should just, we could, now again, this is up to you guys. We can, of course, delete the relationship. And technically say that if Travis wants to block him, he can click the block a second time, right? So that is something you can decide. If that's how you want our site to work, that if Travis goes to click block, but he has a pending friend request, it just kills the relationship, but doesn't actually block him. That is something you can choose. As a developer has been around for a while, I would be afraid that might be confusing for some people if they hit block and it doesn't actually block them.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys
Well, if you hit the block button, it should block. And if you had a friend request in, it should just cancel that request and then do whatever the block does.
Well, technically, yeah, that's what it does. By changing pending to blocked, it turns it into block. That's one of the benefits of this type of relationship system where the relationship can handle both actual friendship, but also blocking as well. Instead of canceling the pending and then blocking, we can just turn this into blocking. We can just change the existing request or the existing pending request relationship to just being blocked already, which is really, really good. So we can just, pending, change to blocked. If approved, what do we do? So if Travis is friends with Nick and then clicks on the block button, what should happen?
Should
Change the block.
change.
What, Jim?
Actually, if it's been approved, well, now we're in the block section. So if it's actually been approved, you want to block them, you should be able to block them, right?
Yeah, change the block, right? Yeah.
It seems like
Blocked. What do we do?
keep it, do nothing.
Good. Yep, do nothing. All right. Now the NT exists. So again, this is Travis hitting the button, but Nick has already there's already a relationship between him that Nick started, that Nick originated. So let's say that this is approved, this is pending. So Nick sent a request to Travis. Travis clicks block. What should happen?
It changes the block.
Yep. If approved, what should I do?
Changes the block.
Gotta catch in the pattern, right? If blocked,
Changes the block. No, do nothing.
there you go.
Man, if only explaining the blockchain was this easy.
That'll go.
Bum.
I like that one.
I was
so
waiting
there.
for something. This is a developer thing, so
Yep.
you should just call that route the blockchain.
Yes, I
There
did
you
it.
So now for the final thing, this is your guys' homework for Thursday. Build the logic for these two. Again, use the above route to kind of gauge how to do it. It's not, this is a very simple, the logic is not that difficult. So we'll see what you guys come up with. We'll do a spot check on it. We'll actually use the Wheel of Doom for actually showing code this time, not for introducing yourself. So cohort 14 will actually see the Wheel of Doom in action for showcasing what you built. So be aware that you will need to show. What?
So we're asking everybody to build this, or
Yes, everyone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push my code as it is now, so you can pull it down and attempt this. This is your challenge for the weekend. Not for the weekend, for Thursday. So it shouldn't need much code. Honestly, this is just from me knowing what the code is. This really shouldn't take you more than half an hour to an hour to be able to code it. I will say you can complicate this, so be careful. Take a look at the simplicity of this logic and think of the easiest code you can write. That's all you need to think about. So be aware that I definitely wrote this in a way that can trap you if you're not careful. So think about what you write before you write it.
that didn't confuse me more.
Sorry.
Not at all.
There's very simple code for this. All you need to know. If you can though write a lot of code to do the same thing. You can make this in a way where you can write more code than necessary to do the exact same stuff.
Is there
That's
a way
all
to
I'm
do
saying.
this in one line?
No, because you do need the two scenarios and you do need to still pull the two requests. So note that we didn't pull to see if the relationship, that you didn't pull REL or inverse REL. Yeah, once you find the item, you might be able to update it or fix the existing item in a single line, potentially. I think so. I think it's possible.
Are you gonna post this video tonight too, so I can look?
Yes,
back
I
at
plan
it?
to post both of them tonight. So yeah, I'm posting both tonight. So I forgot to post yesterday, so I'm posting both tonight. And get
I'm
-a.
definitely gonna need to watch this part.
No worries. Yeah. Make sure the main thing here is just understanding logic here. So. And relationships. There you go. That is now pushed. We now have the code. You pull that down. So yes, if your current local code is not mine, you can definitely just pull mine down to use it. And I'll add the assignment. And what you can do in this case is just probably just honestly upload this file. If you want, you can just upload the file, the Java file, specifically the relationship controller Java file, because then I can just open it and look at it. I don't really need to run it. I'll be able to tell what you guys got. So that sound good? So just upload your relationship controller Java file to the assignment. Sound good? Cool. So I'll be doing that. Any questions on the code here? Any lines you want to review what it does again? We got 10 minutes. Anything you need to refresh? All right. In that case, I'll just finish up with one last thing again to say. like I said before, building your first project does seem daunting. And that's kind of what I'm showing here, because you can write a lot of code to do a very simple concept. Just adding a friend can be fairly complex. Just the friend system. In the beginning, again, you can deal with it as if, yeah, no one's going to click at the same time. You don't have to worry about race conditions. Just get this working. And that's what we did yesterday. That's fine. After that, though, I want to make sure you guys know that, yeah, there is more you can do with anything. There's a lot more we can do to protect our system, to handle edge cases, to make sure our system doesn't crash and doesn't break. That's the key there. Worst case scenario, and this, yeah, the only problem here, yeah, that we had originally, the biggest problem we had here originally is just that idea of Travis sending in a request, and then if Nick sent in a request, they would just have a TN and NT. We have two relationships for them, which would have been a problem. That's really the only thing we had to solve. Some of this extra stuff you're seeing of edge cases, this is us being a little more robust in our system and providing a better user experience. In all honesty, all we had to do here was just check to see if that relationship exists. If it does, then do nothing. And force the user to go to the approve request route. So that's the minimum system. And so if that's what you're going to do, that's fine. You don't have to go through this complex stuff. What I did want to show, though, is let you guys know that if you are thinking of doing something like this, that this is fine. This is something you can do, that you can update records as well as create records in a post route. That is okay to do. And again, walk you through some of this more complex thinking of how to handle certain features and how to handle certain things. Show you how to work through the feature itself and to think about the potential edge case, think about the potential scenarios that could arise by showcasing, again, how does the internet work? How do our systems work? Make sense? So keep in your projects, start simple. And if you're unsure of how to protect or what other scenarios could come into play, chat with your classmates. Bring it up in the beginning of class. Say, hey, this is a route I created. Can anyone think of other scenarios that might come into play? Here's what's happening. Here's what this route does. Here's what my system, here's what I'm trying to do. Can anyone think of like other scenarios that can happen, other problems that this route could run into? And we can have a discussion as a class as to what potentially could go on, like we did today. And talk about those discussions about, yeah, Nick and Travis sitting at their computers, working on your application at the same time, and multiple people, and what could happen to your system. We can definitely discuss that with you and help you to figure out what does your project need. Under no circumstance are you expected to understand and think of all this on your own. When you are hired, you will have a team of developers that will do this exact thing we did today with you, working through the feature, working through the routes, understanding the edge cases you as a developer are going to have to handle. You are not expected to think of those yourself. Your team will think of that. So 100% take advantage of that. Remember that you have a classroom, that you have a team here that can help you work through the processes of your project that you're building. All right. So I know sometimes classes like these can be like, oh my God, what am I trying to build? How am I going to build my own project if this is what it takes just to do friendships? You have a team. You're not doing this alone. I had a team when I did mine. Mine was Arnell. And some of my classmates and some of my old classmates, I would pick their brains sometimes when I was working on stuff. So I didn't work on it 100% on my own and was able to do it all myself. And I because I didn't have the team that you guys had, I fixed a lot of my problems by just running face first into a bunch of walls, having the client say, hey, this doesn't work, and then fixing it. So a lot of my problems was literally, yes, hey, I coded it. I got all the scenarios. Here you go. Hey, this isn't working. Why not? We did this and this. Why did you do that? Why did you do that? What? Wait, what? Okay, wait, no, yeah. Okay, fine. I can see why you would do that. All right, I'll add that.
It made sense to me at the time.
Like, I literally think of like, why would you do it like that? And I'm like, but okay, other people might do that. That's not insane. Just what made you think to do that, right? That was the other time. Those were the other types of questions I would ask my clients or the testers. Like, why did you even think to do that? What made you think to do that? Like, I couldn't always ask that, of course. Be aware, I couldn't always ask that because that's not nice. But in my brain, I was just like, why? All right,
You could say, how did you come to that conclusion?
Yes, that is one thing you can ask, and that's usually how I would ask some nice way like that, like. What were the steps to replicate, like things like that? That's a great thing to ask. How did you do this? Like, what did you do to do this again? Those are great questions. And yeah, just a lot of times like, all right, yeah, I can see other people doing this. That, yeah, other people might do that. So, all right, let me add that to my system. Let me fix my system. Yep, some people can be impatient and double tap buttons. All right, I got to disable buttons once they tap it once. So I will admit that, yeah, some of the things I ran into were problems that I had to just deal with once they showed up. So don't expect yourself to cover everything. Expect to run into bugs and know that you have a team that you can discuss these items with if you're unsure if you've handled everything and want to handle more. If you think that there are obvious items you should be handling. Sound good? You have a team. We got your back. At least I know I do. I hope your classmates have each other's back.
You
Help
need
each other
help
out.
insulting people nicely? I got you. I do it every day.
I don't know much, but I'll ask
No.
all the questions.
There you go.
You're not
Yeah.
dumb. It was just built that way.
Yeah, if you ever need help with insulting, just talk to a customer service person. We come up with all the insults that we can never tell them.
I had that at my job in order to get into our parking
That'll
lot.
be
We
me.
have a sticker that you put on. We have a Bluetooth sticker that you put on your car. Today, some guy came and picked up one from me, and I said, "All right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna put it in the inside of your car on the window, so that when you come in the morning, the Bluetooth reader will see it and it'll open the gate." He immediately turned around and said to me, "You told me to put it on the inside." He goes, "Have people tried to put it on the outside?" And I gave him this look like, "I can't believe you just asked me that." Yes. Yes, there are definitely people like that. I actually write on it in permanent marker, "This goes on the inside of your car." And he's like, it's funny. I've actually seen some people who have that in their badge, because we all have our badges. It's in the badge right here. They have it, even though it actually says on there, "This goes on the windshield."
Yep. Why would you do that? Yeah, no matter how long you sit and think of all the edge cases and all the ways your users will interact with your site, you will not come up with every single one. It is impossible because you are not
Can't
them.
fix stupid. Just won't happen. No cure.
Okay, what I will say is that not every single time is it stupid. It's just sometimes it's just okay, interesting. Sometimes it's interesting. It is not stupid. It's a just unique way of using it, and sometimes that can actually create weird features that actually are updates. So do be aware that sometimes the weirdness that people can do, while at first might sound stupid, can be like, okay, no, actually that sounds interesting, and I like that you did that. I'm making that a feature now.
Right.
I like that you tried it.
Optimism in the coding space is the bug is now a feature.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That happens sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes a bug or a person trying to do something that we did not let them do will let us know, wait, we should let them do that. Okay, let's add that. So they tried to do what? Okay, why did they try to do that? Wait, that
copyright?
sounds awesome.
Isn't that intellectual stealing?
Only if they patent it. Because seriously, I found someone asked once, and I saw this online, of like someone asked someone, hey, if can you do a mozzarella stick but with bacon bits as the crumbs? And so the person decided to do it, and it's now one of their recipes for that restaurant.
Where is
apparently.
this?
I don't know the name of the restaurant because the guy can't share it because otherwise that is he's a
piqued my
TikToker.
interest.
So he did put, I gotta find it again because he did post a recipe of him doing it at home. So he used bacon bits and pork rinds as a mix for the breading, and then just used cheese sticks. So pulled like the cheese sticks, you do the string cheese. There we go, string cheese. And then he made a mix of bacon bits, well, his own, like he got bacon bits and pork rinds that he then mashed. And that was his breading. And so it was pretty much.
This quote is, if so long as it's 7 iterations away from the original, it's not stealing.
Ah, I like it.
Actually, as long as it's not the original recipe, it's not stealing. So if they put 2 pinches of something and you put 3, technically it's not the same recipe.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing, you actually can't copyright recipes. You can copyright the visual and the way you display it and the art style of it if it's unique enough. But the steps, you can't copyright instructions. That's why you can bake a cake and you'll see the same cake recipe in multiple books.
Not yet anyway, right?
What's that, Sergio?
So not yet anyway.
Yep. And no, it's not going to change because otherwise a lot of books would then be invalidated. There's so many cookbooks out there that would just be dead if they decided to say, oh, you can copyright instructions.
You have to go out and buy the new Disney cookbooks if you want the correct recipes for everything. They own everything.
They, I just say
Why
that
did you
because
not buy
Not
the
quite
IRL
yet.
DLC? Come on.
I just say that because it's a trend. Like for example, in the
Yeah.
gaming industry now, like companies are copywriting game mechanics.
They're trying, yeah. Yep, they're definitely trying
Yeah,
that.
like
Was it BioWare did the whole dialogue wheel? No other game can do it like they did because they copywrote that system.
Mhm. Yep, and patented it most likely as well.
and that was it. Warner Brothers copyrighted the Nemesis system of like the that Lord of the Rings game.
Shadow of Mordor, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
they copied. So no other games
Shadow of
use that
Mordor,
mechanic.
Shadow of War.
And they don't copyright those things, they trademark those things. Oh, no, not
Oh
trademark,
yeah,
sorry.
right.
They patent it. That's what they have to do. They have to create a patent because it's a technology. You don't copyright technology, you patent technology.
Gotcha.
It's a unique
Yep.
way of doing something. It's not the original. Like it's like having
Yeah.
snow tires and regular tires. They're
Mhm.
both tires, but they're different
Mhm.
when it comes
And
to stitching.
what for the Disney cookbook, you would not be able to post a Stitch cake, a cake that is Stitch, and say it is Disney Stitch, and try to sell that, because that would be copyright. But the cake to make it cannot be copywritten. So if you made a drink that is inspired by Lilo and Stitch, that is like a Hawaiian drink that is blue, that is perfectly fine and allowed to do.
Yeah, you use that keyword there, inspired by.
Mm-hmm. And you can use the Lilo and Stitch naming for that because that cannot be copyrighted. The instructions to create a drink cannot be copyrighted and cannot infringe on copyright. So that means Disney as well cannot create a Lilo and Stitch drink that the instructions cannot be sold, and any other bar can then make that drink. They don't necessarily need to. They might not be able to say it is the Lilo and Stitch drink, but they can just say it's the Stitch drink then.
Lovable
So-
blue alien drink.
Exactly. They just need. They can just call it that. Yeah. Yep. They can use the blue punch buggy. There you go. Perfect. But that's the thing, though. They can make the exact same drink because the recipe can't be copywritten, but they might not be able to say that it is the Lilo and Stitch drink. That's what they might not be able to do. So it's interesting stuff.
But just
YouTube
remember
videos.
one thing- Just remember one thing in life.
Yep.
There's always someone who's going to say the glass is half empty and one's going to say it's half full.
Yup. Yeah, and again, the last thing I'll say as a disclaimer, since I just realized I am still recording, I am not a copyright lawyer, and so do not take my words as legit. I will not defend you. You're on your own if you take my advice. This is all advice, not legal binding statements.
He's a chef, so the food stuff still counts.
I'm a chef by hobby.
You could make a Lilo and Stitch cake, no problem.
You can make a Lilo and Stitch because
Lilo, yeah.
Yeah,
Because-
Milo.
You can make a Stitch cake, but you just you can't market or sell it, but you can make it your personal at home.
Oh, yeah.
what
No, you
want.
can sell it. You can sell it. Listen, I belong to a community
you
of
can sell the
people-
service. What you're selling is the service. You're not selling the cake. You're selling the service of making the cake.
There you go.
Well, I guess yeah. I guess if you
Yeah.
look at it like that.
That's how they would. That's how they would argue it. They're saying they're not paying for the Stitch visual. They're not paying for that. They're paying for my effort and my ingredients. That's all you got to say. So, and you're not marketing yourself as a Disney authentic, and you don't market it as an authentic Disney Stitch item. That it's not backed by Disney, and it's not a Disney Stitch item. That is, yeah, you're not partnered with Disney and blah, blah, blah. It's not an official. It's not an official Disney Stitch cake. There you go. You cannot say that.
And you're not mass producing it and like selling it to Walmart for them to mass sell.
True.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. I would say, yeah, if Walmart tried, they would probably get in trouble because Disney would go after them. Even if they couldn't get anything from it, Walmart, they could at least try to annoy Walmart and get them into problems and get a settlement out of them. The everyday small person, they're probably not gonna, because they're not gonna get anything.
They would. Hasbro tried to sue a rock band in England because they used My Little Pony in their name. Like companies do that all the time.
That is different though, because that would ruin the search results and that actually would hurt their IP.
Eric Clapton just sued somebody for a pirated $11 pirated bootleg or something like that.
Who?
Eric Clapton.
He hasn't, yeah, but he's also probably desperate for money because of how long he's been out of the game. He hasn't made music in a long time. He's not a popular artist anymore. He needs every dollar. I've
If
been
you're still
hearing.
recording.
Oh, dang it.